Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome, or hopefully it's welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the Talking Heads panel. When we think about a panel, what comes to mind? How many people actually make up a panel? Is it 1, 2, 3, 4? We're going to find out today because we had some people who are scheduled to be here and they're not. Let's focus on the people who are here. Welcoming one of our literally veterans here on the platform. And he is an expert presenter in our Talking Heads panel. He's also a co-host. He's an elevated listener, and he's starting his own panel show here on USA Global TV and Radio. The topic is health. He is a longevity researcher, and he is also a book coach. He's a published author and so much more. Let's welcome red.olaughlin to the show. Hi, Red.
Howdy.
I missed a few things, I know, but
it's not the first time. I'm not worried about it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being here. We also have a special guest who is interested in joining us for our Talking Heads platform. Her name is JENETTA Barry. I have the pleasure of working with her on the show right before this one, The Art of Creating Mental Health Wealth. And JENETTA has an incredible backstory. She is a coach. She's a mentor. She works with people in hostage situations, negotiations, people who are suicidal, people who are dealing with grief. She's created something called the Epiphany Process, and she's also created World Jenny's Day in alignment and in honor with her daughter. So let's welcome her to the show. She is a good friend, and she's joining us from Oxford, England. Hello, JENETTA. Nice to have you.
Hello, the two of you. And look at it, the power of three. There's the panel.
The power of three. So, and I'm going to engage in the panel since we are missing a couple of people. Hopefully they will join us. People are really excited about being on the panel, so I'm sure something must have come up. So our topic for today is space travel. Now, I just want to announce Red is in the United States. He is in Texas. I'm here in the States in New Jersey, and JENETTA is in the UK. So we are coming from different places and we have different perspectives. So before we actually talk about space travel, what connection, if any, do you have to space travel? Red?
I've been up in the air.
That's what I thought. I'd love you to share a little bit more about that.
I was a naval flight officer, flew almost 1,000 flights in Navy P-3 aircraft. It's an anti-submarine warfare, 4-engine turboprop. I've probably been almost around the entire world in that aircraft. I've been around the world in other aircraft, but about 4,200 hours of flight time. And the area that I probably covered most is the area from just south of India in the Indian Ocean, above the equator, all the way around across the Pacific north and south, at least down as far as Tahiti. That's 20 degrees south, up past Alaska, up going north, and the Atlantic, probably from about the equator going all the way up to Iceland, and then going into the Mediterranean. So the area from the middle of the Mediterranean over to India is the only part of the world that wasn't operational. The rest of it, I've been pretty much everywhere. I've been to 61 countries in the world, so that gives you a chance to travel a little bit, not necessarily in what we consider space travel, but at least traveling and seeing this world.
Well, I certainly think that you're qualified to give an opinion because I have no experience whatsoever. JENETTA?
Well, apart from flying around the world, that's about as qualified as I can be. I can say I was a child at school when a man walked on the moon, and I watched Apollo 13 disaster and all those. So I've been around enough for all of that, but that's about my level of qualification, really.
All right, we'll definitely take it. All right.
Yeah, I had
So,
one flight where I left California, working out in San Francisco area, and I spent 2 days in Virginia, and then 4 days in Bahrain, then 4 days in Korea, and then back into San Francisco. So I did have one all the way around the world flight, but that was all commercial and getting to military destinations for events I had going on that I needed to check on things. And so it's that was probably my most interesting long duration flight. I've had several long flights, but uh, anyway, let's get started.
yes, let's get started. And we do have a couple of comments from Stavros. Hi, Stavros. We're interviewing him tomorrow, and I believe he's out in LA. I think that's where you are right now. And he's got a gig coming up, which we'll talk about. He's a stand-up comedian. He's an actor, and he is going to be with us, I think, tomorrow. Let's see. Yes, looking forward to our interview tomorrow. So thanks for watching. We appreciate it. All right. So we're going to talk about space travel. First of all, would you be willing to go up into space if it was less financially extensive? I would say $250,000, is it, or some expensive number? What were your thoughts if you could go for free? Would you go?
Absolutely. Why not? It's in the context of travel. I think safety margins are there and demonstrated enough nowadays that, yeah, yes, we have lost some passengers before, but again, that's just part of any learning curve. You can get in your car and drive up to the store and never make it back home. Uh, but there are inherent risks, and if you're willing to accept those risks, why not? Why not?
All right, I've got some follow-up questions for you, but I'm going to go over to Janetta. If space travel were literally free, would you sign up to go?
It would depend. If it was like what Richard Branson's just done, which is go up and float around for a little while and come back down, I'd love to do that. And as Red said, I believe flying's actually got to be the safest way to travel in the whole wide world. But I'm claustrophobic. And it's got worse with time. Actually, I should really work on it. But I could not be in a confined place like that for long periods of time without doing my nut in and going, what the heck am I doing here? Stop the world, or get me back on the world and don't stop the world. I want to get off. So not long term, but certainly a short one. I'd love to. I'd be there with my boots blacked.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll give you my thoughts. I would definitely not go. I would not go. I'm not going. You're not going to see me there. I'm not going to wave from the window. Hi. No, I'm not going. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm still researching this planet. So for me, I have a lot more to see here on this lovely planet Earth. Okay, so let's take it a step further. You are going to go, and now you have to get into shape. Okay, I don't know what's required. Maybe Red, you can share a little bit about that. What does one have to do to become basically an astronaut? Or what did the movie star, Captain Kirk, what did he have to do to get into shape?
The physical requirements of the early astronaut program were quite vigorous. I mean, from the mental, physical, emotional, what we saw on the movie, The Right Stuff, really didn't go too deep into the physical requirements. But again, when you're taking off, that's when you are going to have the most stress on just about everything, including your body. And so if you have never experienced 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 G's on the body, in other words, if your hand weighs 5 pounds in an environment with 10 G's, now your hand weighs 50 pounds. And so all of a sudden, if you're not able to sustain that liftoff, now you have a problem. I'm certainly not an expert on that. I know from my Navy days, we had certain physical requirements we had to do, plus an annual physical that involved everything: eyes, ears, cardiovascular, everything that you could possibly check. And then that had to be maintained at a certain level. If you went outside a level for, say, blood pressure or some other particular, then you're pulled off. You're not allowed to fly. So there are some very stringent ones from the Navy aviation community, but I have to expect that the non-passenger space travel would not be near as stringent. I don't think that you would be allowed to go up there if you had several comorbidities. That we hear that term used quite a bit here during the pandemic, especially some long-term issue that could require medical treatment, and then you're 2 weeks out and can't get back. So I think there's some issues there that really have to be looked at with regard to your current state of health and your ability to withstand at least a modicum of G forces.
Thank you, Red. I really appreciate that. I would sign up for the training, but I wouldn't go on the trip because I always like to push myself physically and mentally. I think that would be really cool. JENETTA, any comments that you have about the whole training process? If you did not have your claustrophobia and you were physically and mentally qualified to go, how would you feel about doing some type of rigorous training as opposed to just strapping in and floating away?
I'm not a great advocate, or I wouldn't say advocate, but I don't enjoy rigorous training. And part of it is I find it quite boring, believe it or not. For me, being able to train and get ultra fit, it is my dancing. I mean, I watched a whole load of performers on stage last night at the Royal Albert Hall. You've got to be ultra fit to do that dance that they were doing. So for me, I'd be bypassing that particular form of training because it leaves me feeling don't really enjoy this. So I more than likely won't get on that whatever it is. It'll be a plane, won't it? I don't know what the future is.
Well, maybe they can install a dance floor and you can twirl away.
I said we should do a cabaret now. Here we go.
So let's take it one step further. You are going to go, you're not going to go, and it turns out that you have an opportunity to live on another planet. You can be part of building a community on another planet. Red?
Absolutely.
I knew it. Now, are you going to take your family with you or are you going alone?
Well, I don't think you have much choice on something like that. Obviously, we do see movies where there's family living somewhere. And I think you see a lot of that nowadays in some of the more contemporary movies where they have a much larger population somewhere. But given our current state of affairs here in the United States with the space program, hardly likely that you would have your family. Now, I had read something many years ago, I'm going to say 20, 30 years ago, that a particular historian postulated that had the Dark Ages not occurred basically from around 400 to 1400, we would have put a man on the moon in the year 1000. And he was saying, what would the world be like today if we landed a man on the moon 1,000 years ago? And I thought that was kind of a very interesting thought process because it does allow you to say, well, take a look at how much we've done here just since we put a man on the moon in 1969. That's been not that long ago, and all of a sudden we are taking passengers up and we're landing rockets right back down on platforms and reusing them, and just so many different things going on. We do have limits, but I think a lot of those limits are being broken all the time.
I would agree with you. JENETTA, what would you like to add?
No, I wouldn't. Period. I mean, if you check all the above that I was saying, I love breezes for obvious reason. I love open windows. I love seeing the breeze in the trees. I love the open air, the trees, the sea, whatever it is. I love all that. I would really battle on another planet. Maybe if I was 50 years younger, I'd be okay, but not at this stage of my life. I'm happy where I is.
You
All
could
right.
always go. You could always go to the holodeck and put in any program you want and be anywhere
Well,
in the
this is
world.
true, but I'll go, this isn't real.
But
I'll touch
virtually, it
it.
looks so close, and you can certainly enjoy.
Yes.
Yeah, with what we're doing right here, I would love to have this when I was in Vietnam. I mean, back then when I wanted to talk to the family, I had to get on an HF radio, and somebody would be in two different places, and I would say something. It's like say, "Hi, over," and then I had to wait for my wife to come in and say something, and then she'd have to say over because two people are flipping switches on and off in order to transmit that information via HF. And so you get all the way through, and then two people are listening to your conversation in two different parts of the world. And we've come from that to a phone call overseas that have been, sometimes not so bad, but most of the time there always seemed to be a 2 or 3 second delay. You'd say something and you'd hear yourself 2 seconds later say it, and then you'd wait. And then all of a sudden now we have communications that are almost instantaneous. I mean, take a look, JENETTA's in the United Kingdom. We're here and literally it's instantaneous. And then we've gone from just the phones to the video to why not have the ability, if we are living some other sphere, in order to have literally a almost real, virtually real family there with us whenever we want. I mean, that's what a lot of the people are having now when they're deployed overseas. They have their ability to take their cell phone and talk to family. Yeah, it's not quite the same thing, but it's a hell of a lot better than not having that ability at all.
It's a point because basically we're in virtual reality now, and I consider you to be one of my newest good friends, Dr. JACALYN, and we haven't actually met.
It's very true. And a story I'll share with you on Sunday that just passed. I was at the Take Steps Walk in Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field, and one of our team members actually drove up from Virginia to meet me, Kathy Fulton, and she was standing right in front of me. I do 3 shows a week with her, and I did not recognize her. She was literally right here. There's no one else there. And she said hello. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's Kathy, because I've never met her in person. So to your point, it is so possible. All of my friends are on this system, this platform. It's amazing. And to think about traveling all over the world to get together for a dinner or a lunch, it's not possible. But yet you can still build really strong relationships. So based on our discussion today about space travel, if the technology is there that we could have regular communication, it sounds like it is, then that certainly would make it a lot more enjoyable, I think.
I think the thing that doesn't make it enjoyable is if you want to go out and have a nice steak tonight, or fish or seafood or pasta or whatever it may happen to be. I don't think those options are nearly as available in places that are, say, a bit restricted in getting to the local diner.
Well, plus, what about that spacesuit? Like, I don't know, for civilians, do they wear the spacesuit? They must.
I'm not sure what they wear to take off and land. That's the 2 most dangerous parts of any kind of travel in the air. You get in the air, and then the rest of the trip is generally pretty safe. And then again on landing. So your takeoff and your landing are the 2 most dangerous part of any kind of air travel. And I would imagine the same thing on the space travel. But once you're outbound and you're constant velocity, whatever you're doing, I don't think there's much of a need. We don't see our up in the space station, you don't see everybody wearing a suit up there. They're just in their everyday clothes for space. So whether you would wear one strictly for takeoff, I don't know. But then again, we're not doing extra vehicular activity where we're outside the spacecraft doing something. And so I don't think the spacesuit is a big deal. I really don't.
Okay. Well, Jeanetta's not going to be there anyway, but if she was there, she might be outside of the spaceship dancing away. We're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to turn our discussion to procrastination and this fear that we have for personal development or personal growth. And why do I say fear? Because there's so many ways we can improve ourselves, but yet we have excuses about why we're not going to do it. So let's have a chat about that, and we'll have more conversation. Obviously, our panelists are not coming, so we will carry on. All right, let's take a moment.
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 So I've had the privilege of photographing some incredible people over the years, and during each shoot I've asked the subject to close their eyes and take themselves to a peaceful place just for a few seconds. I've found that this really helps to refresh the energy between the camera and the subject. They had an energy that was quite special and quite different from the rest of the shoot. The collection grew, and now it feels the right time to use it for something good. I think it'd be amazing if we could help to raise awareness and involve people in the discussion about mental health. So what we're asking to do is for everyone to upload their own self-portraits. All of these portraits will become part of a massive artwork. I'm really excited to see this project go from hundreds of pictures to thousands of pictures. Essentially, an ever-evolving artwork that says we're all in this together.
Close your eyes and take a moment.
Kapayapaan, kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
Diane Floyd Bame's A Song of Peace tells the story of a young lad named Tommy whose fervent wish for peace on earth touches the hearts of his friends and family, spreads to his community, and eventually unites the whole world around making his dream of peace a reality for everyone. Sit down with the children in your life and share Tommy's amazing story of love and hope. Sing your own song of peace and invite the children to join you. Tommy's tale is more than just a story. It's a movement, and everyone's warmly welcome to take part.
Kapayapaan, 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 kapayapaan.
You'll find A Song of Peace, along with many other wonderful learning and enriching opportunities for children of all ages, at dianefloydbame.com.
people do procrastinate and they do hold themselves back, like probably by not going into space. I am holding myself back from learning something new and having a different experience. And I could think of all the reasons why, but they're different depending on the situation. So, Red, can you share an example of something that you've been procrastinating about, or something that you recently accomplished but had been procrastinating?
I've found out that as I get older, if I don't write something down, it generally does not happen. As much as I need it to happen, it doesn't. And so in my earlier days, I could remember things and get things done and prioritize and actually be fairly productive. And then all of a sudden, oh, I forgot about that one. Okay. And then that same habit of forgetting about something turned in, I gotta write this down so I can at least see it. And there's a connection when you write something with your hand onto something and you see it, that allows you to have a little bit more emotional involvement with that particular item, whatever that may be. And as such, I have a lot of things that are going on. I think everybody does. And I retired 2007, and I'm busier now than I have been on some of the busiest days of my life, way back when I was literally working 26 days in a row and finally getting that 1-2 days off a month. But regardless, you ask the question, is there something that you want to do? Well, obviously, if there's enough hours in the day and enough inclination and you prioritize it right, there would be things. I've been working on a project here to level a shed in my backyard. In order to do that, I needed to get a floor jack that I know I have 2 of them in the garage. I have no idea where they are because I can't get into the garage. So my wife and I have been working here for about the last 10 days and literally moved almost everything out of the garage. Of course, out here in Houston, it's been around 100, 102 almost every afternoon. And we're starting to work about 1 o'clock. We finish around 5 or 6. And we have taken everything out, gone through a lot of stuff, put it back in, could not find the jack. So the project originally was to level the house, but all these other things happened ahead of time. The house is still not leveled. It's still on the list. It's written down. But other things sometimes have to be part of the preparation in order to do what you want to do. And if you don't meet the preparation requirements, then you can't do what is the basic task at hand. And that's part of my problem right now, is not getting all the preparatory stuff done.
Well, thank you so much for your candor and your honesty about that. It sounds like an interesting project. And it just goes to show you that everything that you've accomplished, there's still some things that you're working on because you're a human being. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. What about you, Jenetta?
Yeah, procrastination is one of my favorite topics because I think that internal conversation we all have inside us has given procrastination a bad name. And people hear procrastination and it means that you're slovenly or not focused or not being successful. There's a long list of words that attach to the word procrastination. And so it was something I tried to avoid in my earlier years. I wasn't going to be a procrastinator. I needed to be focused and driven and clear and certain. And I noticed that the more I tried to be that, the more I procrastinated. And I had an aha moment when I realized that procrastination is a human trait. And so therefore it's part of who we are. And it's not about not having procrastination. It's about managing procrastination and understanding how valuable it is to us, as much as in its extreme form, it doesn't serve too well. And when I change that internal conversation, I actually call it powerful procrastination. And I changed that internal conversation and started understanding what my procrastination was giving me, that if I never procrastinated would be missing in my life. And Dr. JACALYN, in the previous show, I was showing my toilet bowl moment, where cleaning the toilet brought my greatest ideas. I began to notice that when I was procrastinating, cleaning the toilet or going and making a cup of tea or even mowing the lawn, which I really, really hate, they became far more attractive than the task at hand. And then I'd beat myself up because I'd go off and make that cup of coffee, or I'd go off and say, I'll do the toilet first, I'll do this first, I'll do that first, I'll do everything first. And then come back going, you're such a failure because you've not managed to do what was really important. And the change in conversation was when I realized what happened when I do procrastinate. And I realized that my most creative moments come when my brain is in zone out as I'm washing the dishes or making that cup of coffee. And now when I procrastinate, I welcome it with 2 pairs of hands, arms, all my teeth, everything else. I go, bring it on, because it has something in it that serves. And what happens then is that I procrastinate less because I appreciate it, which means I'm appreciating myself instead of judging myself. And I haven't looked back with it. I mean, all world, Jenny's Day, creativity, insight, all has come from procrastination.
Wow. Thank you, Janetta. I love, again, your transparency and authenticity. I'm getting to learn a little bit more about each of you as our viewers and our listeners. We do have a comment from someone new on the platform, Arcana Sharma. Thank you so much for watching, or we really appreciate it. Love to know where you're watching from and anything that you're procrastinating about. So I'll share mine. So you two have been so gracious. I have been putting off getting a physical and getting my blood work done. Red, I had shared this with you. So it turns out I thought the last time I got my blood work was 2019. It was actually 2018, which is really horrible. And so I kept putting it off and putting it off because I have health issues and I didn't want to find out that they had gotten worse, because if they got worse, I'd actually have to do something about it. And as ridiculous and immature as it sounds, from an intellectual standpoint, I understand it, but from an emotional point of view, I didn't want to deal with it. So in making the appointment to get the blood, I got the physical, but they didn't do the blood work there, which I thought was, oh, great, I could push it off even more. And it turns out I have insurance that's an HMO where you need referrals, which I don't recommend. Anyway, I got the referral and I made the appointment at the lab, and I couldn't find my referral form since when I left Florida to here. And I knew exactly where it was and it wasn't there. So I thought this was a sign from the universe, from God. Do not go for the blood work. And so I called up the doctor's office and they faxed a copy to the lab so that I could go. And I went yesterday and there was a long wait and all these questions. And I thought, I meant to leave. And I stayed there. And anyway, the test results came back today and I'm in great shape. Thank you. So I tortured myself for all that time. And if there had been something wrong, I would have needed to address it right then instead of putting it off. So I really learned something, and I'm really very grateful to Red, because he is a longevity researcher and he talks a lot about health. And I've started intermittent fasting, I don't know, 2 or 3 months now, and changed the way I eat. I'm using a salad plate instead of a giant plate. So only eating once a day or twice a day. So thank you, Red.
Before my health and wellness habit started, I was writing, speaking on motivation, self-improvement, self-esteem. And when I'd write my blogs, at the very end of it, I would say, choose your distractions wisely. That was my sign off. You know, nowadays it's more health and health related. But even when you choose your distractions wisely, after a while, and I think Janetta hit it on the head, you have to be able to manage your procrastination. And I really thought that was a very key part of what she just said, because if you choose your distractions, you're really not allowing the whole world to come into your being, because it just, you're taking a sliver and saying that's the only thing I want. And it may be that's what you need for today, but in the big scheme of things, you need the ability to take some of those distractions and allow them to come front and center, and you conquer them. That you don't go, oh, let me just go down and watch TV for a while, or go. You need the challenge of being able to recognize them for what they are, a distraction, not filter them out so you don't even see them. And so I kind of gradually pulled away from choose your distractions wisely. and just started leaving it off, because I think you really do need the full gambit of what are they, and recognizing them for what they are. And then when you can recognize, I don't need that right now, then that goes off to the side. Whereas before, you'd reach out and you'd grab a hold of it and you wouldn't let it go, because that was what kept you in your comfort zone or whatever activity that was going on at that time. And as a result, all those items on the checklist never got done because you were involved with something that you felt more comfortable with.
Yes, I definitely agree. Thank you for sharing that. We'll discuss it a little bit more. We do have a follow-up comment from Arshana. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I feel it's a way of coping with challenging emotions and negative moods induced by certain tasks: boredom, anxiety, insecurity, frustration, resentment. Who would like to respond?
I love that. I feel it is a way of coping. But still, if your internal conversation is saying, I'm using this to cope, sometimes you can use it as an excuse, and sometimes you can use it as a hitting stick. So, as Red was saying, it's being able to manage with that coping mechanism or those coping skills so that you are managing the coping rather than the coping skills controlling you. So it's finding that way to mix it all up so that you're the one that's and don't get me wrong, that there are some days, and I really relate to what she's saying. There are some days where I'll go a whole day where I do nothing. If it's something particularly big and I know it's got a lot of pressure on me, I'll go a whole day and I'll allow a day or whatever it takes, but I know I'm still managing it. It's not controlling me. And that's what she's saying there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Archana, we'd love to know where you're watching us from. Red, would you like to respond?
Well, I think you wrote a book about that, didn't you? Just recently, where
I
you
think
talk about how things happen in our lives and we could be frustrated. Anxiety just permeates right to the core, resentment, frustration. And yet these people chose not to cope and accept it, but to actually combat it and overcome it in such a way that they became a totally different person. They were not captured by their circumstances. Is that a fair way of answering that question, Dr. JACALYN?
Yes, absolutely.
And
So
what was the name of your book again?
Adversity to Awesome. Thank you. I was looking to see if I have a slide. Of course, I don't have one. Why would I have anything to promote my stuff? But yes, you can go over to Amazon. The book is called Adversity to Awesome. It's 12 chapters. The first chapter is my story, something that happened to me, and the rest belong to 11 other authors. And Red and I work together diligently to put everything into third person and have it cohesive and have the whole thing flow. So we'd love for you to pick up a copy of that. Thank you. JENETTA, you're also an author, and I know you're thinking of doing another project, and you'll be reaching out to Red. So tell us about the works that you have published, and then we'll go over to Red, and he can share about his.
Oh, thank you, Dr. JACALYN. One of the things with my backstory, I ended up doing the work I do after losing my 16-year-old daughter, Jenny, to suicide after she and I had a really very big argument. And I mean, obviously, there were many times I didn't think straight, but when I could think straight, I kept on saying, science tells us that energy can't be created or destroyed. It just completes itself in one form and then reforms into a new version of itself. Now, my daughter was energy. So where's my daughter in this new version? And I started chronicling where it felt that energy was and questioning at the same time and going, that's fanciful. I don't believe that's me wanting to distort the information. But I started chronicling where it felt like really, really, wow, that's interesting. And over a course of 4 years after she died, I kept those chronicles. And then at the 5th year, I started putting them all into a book. It's a very slim book, 79 pages, funnily enough, because 7 and 9 are big numbers with Jenny. And it's called Full Circle Rainbow. And it's a very simple way of being able to start looking differently when you've lost a loved one, or sensing differently, or feeling differently. It's a very simple book. It's not a complicated one. And yeah, so that was Full Circle Rainbow. And then this one's out of print, but I did like a 1 a day step to grief relief, and that helped a lot of people, but it's no longer in print.
Thank you, JENETTA. We'll look forward to your next book as well. And we do have a comment from Anne. Nice to have you back with us, Anne Louise O'Connell, over on LinkedIn. Ordered my copy and waiting for it to be delivered. Adversity to awesome is a great mantra. Fantastic. And one of our team members, Diane Floyd-Beam, works with Anne. So, Anne, we are happy that you're here with us, and we look forward to interviewing you again. All right, Red, over to you as we close out the show. Tell us about your published works and anything you're working on.
I research the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating symptoms. And when we're looking at procrastination today and you're treating symptoms, it's very similar. You're not accomplishing what you really need to accomplish. But my works primarily focus on aging, longevity. What causes you to age? What can you really do about it? There are 2 primary causes of aging, and then there are a whole lot of factors that people think, well, this causes aging, but no, there are some underlying physiological things that happen. And that's what I write about. And when I look at the causes of disease, whether it be age-related diseases, I look at each individual part of that. Now, I did a section on heart health here just recently. We finished up, and there's about 20, almost 20 causes of actual things that can create a problem in the heart. And we went through each one of those and talked about them and what the genesis of that pathway was and what you could do, or at least recognize that you could do something about it. Right now I'm doing a presentation series on stress, and there's all sorts of different aspects of stress. But I look at what are the root causes in order to be able to say, well, okay, fine, I recognize what it is. Now what can I do to stop it? Or in some cases, what do I need to do to accelerate it? Because maybe I need more of that particular thing. But that's what I do. I speak, I write on health and wellness. I love that area. My first love before I ever met my wife was chemistry. I didn't get a chance to practice it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. But 31 years in the Navy, and coming up here very, very shortly, just in a couple weeks, it'll be 54 years with my wife.
Thank you so much, Red. I appreciate that. I appreciate both of you, and it's so much fun to work with you. And I'm just going to share a little bit about how we're working together on another project. We do have a comment, a follow-up from Anne. Thank you, JENETTA, for sharing your story. What a terrible loss, but great message on how to work through grief and the belief that your loved one's energy continues, something I believe with all my heart. Thank you, Anne. And she also writes, love Red's message too. Thank you so much, Anne. All right, so as we close out, our next show is coming. I just want to share with our audience the fact that Red, JENETTA, and I are working together on a new project, as well as some other people are working with us. And this is it. This is the first of 7 books to come. And the title is The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. Lady Ella is actually my great niece, and I was with her this weekend. So if you happen to watch the Take Steps video, you'll see her in there. So this book cover represents our elevated listeners. So anyone who's on our elevated listening team had an opportunity to create a character for the book. So in this particular book, the main character is the owl, and this represents Caroline Heward. And Jenetta, do you want to tell us about your character, and then Red?
Yeah, my character is the lioness on the bottom left-hand corner. She's going to be a little bit more white in the final. And the reason why I chose her is because I always joke around saying that I'm a Maasai in disguise, having come from Kenya. And of course, that's because I'm only 5 foot and very, very white, and Maasai are very dark and very, very tall. But the lioness, her name is Sikaliza, which in Swahili means listen or to listen. And so she's going to be a white leucistic albino with blue eyes. And she's got a very special connection to me already in my having got engaged a few weeks ago. But that's another story for another time.
Thank you so much, Jenetta. We're going to go over to Red. I'm actually the ladybug here because I'm the listening mentor. And you can see I have a little tag. It says Ella on it. My sister is the cow. Her name is Belle, and her tag says Wisdom. Red, which character are you, and what is the significance of it?
Well, you asked me for a character, and I wanted it to be something that was red. And there are very few red animals out there. There are a couple, but I wanted something a little bit more unusual, maybe something that somebody doesn't see every day. And so I chose the red ibis, and that is the character there, almost literally dead center. It's between the white horse there, and I'm guessing the gorilla, monkey. I'm not sure which. Orangutan, is that what that one is? Okay. Yeah. So the bird is a red ibis. It was one of the ones that I chose just because of the intense redness of the feathers and the overall redness of the entire animal. And because my name is Red, my real name is Francis Michael. Only bill collectors call me that. But everybody else, 8 out of 11 in my family were redhead. And so it's just one of those genes that I like, and I prefer to have that name, and that's what I use.
Thank you so much, Red. And thank you for taking this journey with me. We have a follow-up comment from Anne, and this means a lot coming from you, Anne. Thank you with all of your experience. Gorgeous cover. Thank you. So the purpose of these books is to teach children and their parents how to listen at an elevated level. And as we progress through the series of 7, the characters will have an opportunity to continue through on all 7, depending if they want to stay as go to a main character or be one of the friends of the main character or stay as a support character. And then new elevated listeners are also invited if they want an opportunity. So we will be starting, I already posted it out there, our new TV show, which is The Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And each week we'll have one of our characters, Red, Jenetta, etc., who will be featured on the show. We'll actually spotlight just their character, and they can walk us through the name of the character, why they came up with the character's listening skills. And it's to give each of our wonderful creators here an opportunity to share their work as well. So look forward to that coming soon. And now we have to sign off because the United Kingdom News and Culture is coming up next. And if either of you'd like to join me on that show, Diane's on holiday this week. I can send you the link. So, okay, Jenetta's in. Red?
No, I have a 10 o'clock I really have to make.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, we will sign off for now. Thank you so much for watching and engaging with us. We really do appreciate it. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go over to usaglobaltv.com. If you'd like to be considered to be a talking head, please email me directly at drjacalyn@usaglobaltv.com. You know where to find me. All right. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Bye.